Hello and welcome back to the Perth to Paisley podcast. This is episode number 76. And it's going to be a great one. If you're watching the video currently, Adam is just not the happiest man in the world right now. And you know what? I'm Daniel. You all know that. We're just going to jump across to Adam. How are you doing?
Pish.
Right. Okay.
I'm not happy, mate. What do you look like? I'm not looking forward to this episode. Oh, I feel for those that actually made the journey up to Perth.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. And I, for some reason, want to be part of that, Jambo support that heads through to Paisley. I think it's just because of the convenience of my journey now, the fact that it's a tiny little train ride, and, but this is the thing, because me going to watch Hearts and Paisley usually doesn't equal good news. We only broke this Paisley hoodoo earlier in the season because I thought there is absolutely no chance I'm going anywhere near that pay-per-view because we always get beat when I go to Paisley. So when we come back next week and I'm hosting, I'll address an apology, off the bat.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. Basically, we're going to structure this episode positive heavy at the start and then actually speak about the game. So the first thing I want to mention to get the biggest positive out of the way, and it genuinely is a positive, we forgot to mention it last week, but the week before, we actually hit over 50,000 listeners on this show. And it was brought up to me a couple of times, actually, that people thought we were going to mention it last week. And to be blunt, we both completely forgot about it. We tweeted about it and spoke about it. But listen, that's a big number, right? Me and Adam created the idea of this podcast driving back from Kilmarnock a couple of years ago, going, do you want to do this? Let's see what happens. And I'll completely hold my hands up and be honest. I was expecting maybe by this point, episode number 76, maybe 100 people total will have wanted to listen to what we're saying. And even that, I would have been like, that's a success. The fact that we could fit Tynecastle more than double over is terrifying, very humbling, and it's all just down to you lot listening. From me, a massive thank you. We really do appreciate it. With the opportunities we've got to work with the club, to speak to former and current players on the show, and hopefully we'll be able to do that moving forward as well. It's all down to you guys. It's nothing to do with us. We just speak shite every week, and for some reason, people keep coming back. So from me, a huge thank you, and I'm assuming, Adam, the same goes for you.
Yeah, perfectly put, mate. I mean, I don't know what's wrong with, all the listeners to this show. You obviously all need to get a life. You need to look beyond Heart Midlothian Football Club, because I think what we've established from this podcast, first and foremost, is that Hearts and the fans is a bit like an abusive relationship. We seem to love Hearts, but sometimes they hate us. That's how I currently feel. And this podcast is
how is this
fantastic. It's a fantastic form of therapy. And for some weird reason, you nutters want to listen in. So again, can't thank you all enough. Appreciate it.
Well, here's to everybody leaving. And then by the time we get to the 100th episode, there's no one listening because we're that rubbish. But we will now get closer to the games, but not quite yet because we want to speak about anything else other than Hearts' trip to Perth. There's been a bit of movement in the manager department elsewhere in the league. So obviously this season has seen a whole host of managers come in. Both the old firm at the start and during the season have replaced their managers. Hibs, Aberdeen already have, and we spoke about that. And then this past week, first of all, in probably the most, I don't know if surprising is the word, but maybe odd timing, came at Dundee. As previously, James McPake was on a 9-game winless run before he came to Tynecastle, and Nelms and co thought, this is fine. We'll keep him in charge. He then goes to Tynecastle against us and wins, and then knocks Peterhead out of the Scottish Cup and gets to the quarterfinal. And it is then he is deemed not good enough for the job. And before I get on to his replacement, how did you feel about McPake getting sacked at this point?
I think I've said elsewhere that I'm amazed that James McPake was Dundee manager for as long as he has been. I don't get the timing whatsoever. What is John Nelms smoking? And like, usually you'd expect the results that James McPake got toward the end of his Dundee spell from a new manager and a new manager bounce.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, I don't quite understand why now. Was it because that they'd won promotion? They just felt they had to be as loyal for.
Do you know what I think it is? I think they were expecting us to batter Dundee and they go, right, now we can sack him. And then they didn't. So they were like, oh, wait, shit. Peterhead will knock us out the cup. It's fine. And they went beat Peterhead and they were like, we're just going to have to do it. And this is the worst timing ever.
Surely they'd have given James McPake his jotters if they'd have had somebody better than, with all due respect, Mark McGee.
Well, this is the thing.
Up.
This is the thing. So his replacement...
Were they after Jack Ross? Were they after Stephen Glass? I don't know. True. It's weird.
Yeah, Mark fucking McGee, who is still serving a six-match touchline ban from his antics at his Motherwell job in 2017. Now, we'll get to his first game in charge of Dundee, which, in fairness, he actually did perform quite well. So maybe John
manager bounce, baby. Hey, listen, there you go. But bizarre appointment. What I really don't get is, again, inquiring into John Nelms and whoever's made the decision at Dundee here. How many games are there left to go? About 11 or 12?
Something like that, yeah.
And in essence, he's going to serve half of them on the touchline or up in the stands.
Yep.
What's the point? I don't get this at all. It just seems the most bizarrely timed sacking. And had they rewound a couple months back, then you could have justified it and they'd probably had somebody better than Mark McGee available.
Yeah, absolutely.
Weird.
It's very weird. However, what is not as weird is the other managerial appointment / resignation in the top flight, as Jim Goodwin left his position at St Mirren and has taken over from Stephen Glass at Aberdeen. And I think Aberdeen are aware of the fact that they now have the most attractive manager in the league, because the video they posted as he's getting off the bus against Motherwell looks like a Hugo Boss ad. And fair play to them. I hope this is what they do all the time. I hope they just go, we understand we've got a really attractive manager. So even when they get beat, just shove slow-mo videos of Jim Goodwin, and Aberdeen fans are like, yeah, well, it's all right. We'll accept it because we can just look at him and he's nice.
See, when Jim Goodwin was playing...
It was because he was shaved bald, and I don't know why.
And he was an ugly, nasty man.
And now he's got a manager, nice beard and a grey hair.
Slick hair.
Yeah.
And the beard, a silver fox.
Yeah.
Why is he so much more likeable as a manager than as a player?
Do you think it's because he was trying to be a hard man as a player? Because that was what Jim Goodwin was like. He was like industrial. So he was like, I can't be looking good whilst trying to be like that.
See, if you were a midfield player trying to play in Scotland and you're coming up against him, oh, no thanks.
Yeah.
But now I don't know. I'm really disappointed that he's gone to Aberdeen, because I think that's an annoyingly good appointment. Yeah. I didn't think that Stephen Glass, with all due respect to like the MLS and whatever, this was his first. I was about to say
this was his first job. This was his first proper job. It was his first proper job.
It was, Atlanta. If we're being honest. And was it not like the Atlanta seconds that he was taking?
Yeah, he wasn't even matching the first.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm annoyed because I feel like Jim Goodwin, with that St Mirren budget, I know it's probably the highest that they've had for a long time. And Tony Fitzpatrick was on about, the top 6, I think, the season before last. And everybody sort of laughed it off. And it's only then, on the last day before the split, did St Johnstone, I think, nick it off St Mirren.
Yeah.
So, a good manager. It'd be interesting to see what he does with an increase in budget. But bizarrely, his former club, who we obviously play this coming weekend, also play on Wednesday night and could go 4th with a win against Dundee at Dens. So just goes to show the state of the cinch at the minute. But long live the cinch. God bless.
And then finally, to touch the club that we're playing this weekend, St Mirren, it looks like, because out of nowhere, Fabrizio Romano is tweeting about it, which is the most bizarre thing in the world. it looks like current Morecambe boss and former Motherwell manager Stephen Robinson will be taking over. And I think the main aspect of this is we're keeping Stephen Naismith, which I'm delighted about.
Yeah, very much so. Seems to be earning rave reviews with his work with the under 18s, I think it is so far. Yeah, again, I thought that Jack Ross going back to St Mirren was...
Well, he turned it down.
Cert. Has he turned it down?
Yeah, apparently they asked for an interview and he said no. So I'm assuming that Jack Ross is expecting a bigger job to come his way.
But then there was talk of him going to Queen's Park as well because Leanne Dempster was there, wasn't it? So
yeah,
I don't know. I don't think we'll see Jack Dross for a wee while, to be honest. But in terms of St Mirren, Stephen Robinson and Morecambe seem to get off to a great start this season, but they're actually sat in the League One relegation zone. So for him, I think it makes total sense. Jump out of what will most likely be a sinking ship and come back to Scotland where, let's face it, the job that he did at Motherwell was decent on the whole. And that's obviously proved the most successful spell of his managerial career, albeit a short one.
Definitely. It's also been very funny to see Morecambe fans freak out because they're a tiny
going to
little
the pub
club.
league and all this other nonsense.
Yeah.
Oh, do me a favour.
So, ha ha, ha ha ha. Anyway, around the grounds. We'll get to that. And as you can tell, we've put off speaking about it for about 12 minutes now, so we'll have to start. But before
done remarkably well to just talk absolute nonsense for the best part of about a quarter of the episode.
Yes,
great
exactly.
work.
So we'll actually start with Jim Goodwin's first game in charge of Aberdeen, as it was deja vu from the other week in the Scottish Cup. But this time with a different scoreline, as Motherwell drew 1-1 with Aberdeen. The first time this season Motherwell haven't beaten Aberdeen, funnily enough. So Jim Goodwin's off to a good start there. His former team, St Mirren, drew 1-1 to Livingston. They two teams seem to be roughly the same level just now, which is really interesting. And then Hibs got a very important win at home against Ross County 2-0 before the Old Firm both played on the Sunday. Dundee United getting another good result against Rangers this year. I don't know what's happening with Dundee United as they drew 1-1 at Tannadice before Mark McGee's Dundee nearly managed to get points away at Parkhead until a Giakoumakis hat-trick allowed Celtic to win 3-2. What did you think of the games?
From the Saturday, I called Livy 1, St Mirren 1.
Nice.
So see that as a big dub. Motherwell, I had anticipated to be Aberdeen, but obviously I didn't foresee Jim Goodwin's appointment and arrival at Aberdeen. Course. So I think all things considered, like you said, that's a decent result. Considering he was he appointed the Friday and then took charge the Saturday? He
literally said to Sportscene that he had a 15-minute meeting with the players Friday night and then saw them in the dressing room ahead of the game.
Yeah. So, he's not even been on the training park yet with them. So be interesting to see how they get on in the coming weeks. Obviously, there's a trip to Tynecastle a week on Wednesday, I believe. So that'll be great, particularly considering that the last meeting with Aberdeen at Tynecastle, at both Tynecastle and Pittodrie were fantastic. Some great games against the Dons this year. Seeing them languish in the bottom six, and we've still not been able to beat them. Hibs beating Ross County. The only thing I'm surprised at is Hibs keeping a clean sheet, in all honesty. County have been scoring goals aplenty despite their league position, so was a bit intrigued there. And as for the Sunday fixtures, I was working early on the Sunday morning. I wake up from my nap and see that Rangers had been held at Tannadice. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, like you said, I think it was the second match day. Rangers lost to United 1-0 at Tannadice. Then they went on a Raj unbeaten run till they lost to Celtic, obviously, in the Old Firm the other week. And that's been their only two league defeats. Haven't seen the highlights yet. I heard Bobby Madden had a shocker.
He did.
Imagine, my surprise at that. And Celtic edging past Dundee was really annoying. Celtic's record against Dundee is an absolute disgrace. And we were talking about Aberdeen's record against Celtic. I've now found a team with an even worse record against Celtic, which is remarkable. Took the lead. And then obviously got to 2-1, pegged them back yet again. And I'm thinking, do I actually want Dundee to win a game of football? What a bizarre and wacky notion. But of course, Celtic do what they do. And they seem to they've made a real annoying habit of leaving it late in a good few games in recent weeks, months now.
I saw a Rangers fan make a thing that was like, if games finished after 80 minutes, Rangers would be 5 points clear at the top of the league.
Bizarre. And what do they trail now? 3 points, isn't it?
3 points, yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops. Obviously, still 2 Old Firms to go, so we'll wait and see. But in terms of kind of the results on a whole, my only real surprises were Aberdeen claiming a point at Fir Park and Rangers being held at Tannadice, in all honesty.
And then the final game.
This is the least surprising.
The final
Absolute
game
nonsense
of the
Seriously.
matchday week as Hearts travelled to Perth to try and get their first league win in Perth since 2010.
Half
Kevin
my
Kyle-
life ago, like we established last week.
Where Kevin Kyle and I think it was Hamill
Was that
scored.
2-0 win for Hearts?
I think so. It was something like that. Scored.
Was that the Ajax style strip?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Jesus wept.
So Hearts lined up, and I hadn't seen the team, and my manager, who actually listens to the podcast, funnily enough, she's a Hearts fan, and she messaged me going, "Oh my God." And that panicked me initially. And I looked at it and went, what's wrong with that? Oh, okay, there's a couple of missions. But then I was like, wait.
Skipped over the first name.
Suter's captain. Why Suter captain? And the fear that every Hearts fan has had since the start of this season came true in probably the worst possible game for it to come true, as Craig Gordon and Liam Boyce, but Boyce has missed a few games, both tested positive for COVID, so missed out. Now, before I get to the rest of the team,
Want to give them our well wishes, first and
of
foremost.
course, yes, absolutely. I hope they're
Been
okay.
there, done that, got the t-shirt, not nice.
Somehow I've not been there yet, but I hope not to. Before I get into the rest of the team, what was your reaction when you saw Gordon wasn't playing and Ross Stewart was making his first appearance this season in the league? I think that sums it up to
sort of
yeah.
sums Hearts up at the minute that, you know, a Rangers-bound centre-half is captaining the club.
I didn't give a shit about that. I saw so many folk getting annoyed at that. He's the vice captain.
I'm not
Like
annoyed. I'm not annoyed, but it's just like, of all the things that could go wrong, that is essentially the perfect way to sum it up. Again, my concern was just that we'd get beat. I think St Johnstone were something like 16-5. Why I didn't lump them from there, I'll never know. And I sent a message into the group chat with all my pals and whatever. As optimistic as you would have found me was St Johnstone 1, Hearts 0. And I said that Jamie McCart or somebody like that, I think will score from a corner, I said, as opposed to obviously the free kick and winner. So St Johnstone to win and Jamie McCart to score would have been a great bet. But as is so often the case, guess who wasn't on it? This guy.
Well, Craig Gordon and Liam Boyce weren't the only changes from the team that played against Livingston. There was actually 5 in total, 3 of which were enforced. Craig Gordon, Liam Boyce, Benny Beningame, Michael Smith, and somebody else missed out.
I thought it was just 4 changes. But
it might be 4 then. Yes, it is 4. It is 4 because Ross Stewart, Cammy Devlin, Nathaniel Atkinson, and Josh Ginnelly all came in, lining up in that 3-4-3 or 5-2-3, however you want to say it is.
Just stop beating around the bush. That formation and system needs ditched. Let's just be honest now.
Especially when we don't have Halkett.
Yeah.
Because with Halkett, I think it's fine.
That was the perfect time to change it.
Yeah.
So we're going to stick with it now. 100%.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So the game kicks off, and within 48 seconds, Hearts get off to the worst start possible as St Johnstone pass it about. Somehow, by the way, I have no idea how they managed to pass it about in the state of that pitch, by the way, but they managed to do
Don't
it.
get me started on McDiarmid Park, mate. We're not going to run about McDiarmid today.
The amount of water in that, you could have swam in it. But Hallberg passes it through to Ali Crawford, who if I'm being nice to Ross Stewart, I'm saying puts it too far in the corner.
I don't think Ross Stewart is at fault for the goal.
I think if Craig Gordon's there, he saves it.
I just think it's a great finish.
I think that's because of his height, though. I think Gordon's got a longer wingspan, so I think Gordon can physically reach it.
Do you want to know my frustration for this goal? It's the fact that St Johnstone take kick-off and immediately shell it out of play, and we somehow still manage to find a way to concede within the first minute. Like, the fact that we concede possession, I think it's twice so cheaply, because Big Pete looks to kind of give it away, but he's fortunate that Stephen Kingsley's there to recover. Who Alex Cochrane is looking for up the line, I will never know.
I think it's Barry Mackay.
I don't even see Barry Mackay in my picture when I'm looking back at the goal. Like, where the hell's he? And then Elliot Parish gathers. I wanted to ask you, because there's so much more that we can do defensively. I know that for certain. Is the main frustration that we don't win the initial header? Is it the fact that, Glenn Middleton and Melker Hallberg getting behind too easily? And then, of course, I'm talking about Ali Crawford. He's a player I admired when he was at Accies, a former Hearts trialist, and he slots past Ross Stewart like he's not even there. So I think it's a fine finish. My concern is more in the build-up, to be honest.
So this isn't actually the goal I have as many problems with. I have problems with it in terms of the timing. Like, you should never concede that early because you should be as focused as you're ever going to be in a game.
And like I say, they've shelled it out.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
We have possession after a minute. It's not as though they've kicked off, played, a couple neat 1-2s round us and we've not even had a touch.
Yeah.
We've just given them a chance early on.
Yeah, that is definitely frustrating. And as you say, just the way that they can pass it about as if we're not really there, that was definitely frustrating. And it couldn't have been a worst possible start. Like, literally, unless they'd shot from kickoff and it went in, you can't ask for a worse start than that. However, in quite non-Hearts fashion this season, we kind of immediately... You can
say that again.
Yeah, we kind of immediately remedy it. Because for the next 4 minutes, St Johnstone barely touched the ball, and then Barry Mackay gets it on the edge of the box and hits a kind of, I don't even know how you'd say it. It's not like a daisy cutter, but it's not the fastest of ball possible.
It kind of opens up the body a little bit, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Try to bend one into the far corner.
Yeah, and it hits the post, and Nathaniel Atkinson just kind of gambles on it hitting the post, runs in and puts it past the St Johnstone second choice keeper Parish, and immediately within 5 minutes it's 1-1, and I think every Hearts fan just kind of went, right, let's just pretend it's 0-0 and we're starting again, let's go.
We're actually in the ascendancy, having equalised in Perth.
Yes.
Wow. Incredible. This confirms our theory that Barry Mackay will never score for Hearts. Like, seriously, how unlucky does he actually have to be? And do you know, I think I'd take nothing away from Nathaniel Atkinson. It's a great goal. And I think his frustration will be that his first Hearts goal hasn't arrived in a win. My annoyance is, I think this goal highlights a real concern of mine in that there's a real lack of movement in offensive areas for me, because Stephen Kingsley's the one that picks it up in the middle of the park, who's playing in the left of a back three. And Barry Mackay, if Alex Cochrane was shelling that ball to Barry Mackay because he's supposed to be on the left, he has to operate centrally to receive the ball and try and make things happen. And yet, it comes from a rebound from his shot.
Yeah.
So,
very
in essence, it highlights the fact that we're dependent on Stephen Kingsley, who's on the left of a back three, and probably more notably Barry Mackay to carve out opportunities. It's not as though I've been saying this for a week, longer than a week.
So,
honestly,
From that point on, St. John,
Jesus.
it's a really bad game. However, we just never really seem to put our foot on the ball. We never managed to. And I do think, like, there was one moment where Cochrane went to just make a 5-yard pass to Kingsley and the ball stuck halfway and he had to sprint to get it before Hendry ran in. And you see in that moment, I think it was about 12 minutes in, where every player goes, oh my God, we're going to have to put double the amount of effort on passes here. It's really hard to run through. But clearly St. Johnstone just went, oh, okay, that is the situation. Let's change the game plan. And we didn't really do that. However, we had the next big chance in the half where Peter Haring swings a ball in and you expect Elliot Parish to just run and claim it. And somehow he doesn't. He kind of drops it. Sims is really unlucky to miss it. Then it gets back to Parish and you expect him to claim it again and he doesn't. And then it somehow ends up a goal kick.
Why does everybody's backup goalkeeper have an absolute stormer against Hearts? It really is starting to grind my gears.
Yeah.
I can't put my finger on it. And yet...
I don't know if it's just because they're a backup keeper, so this is their chance to showcase why they should be in the side. And we just keep getting it that we're the team every backup keeper is playing against.
In an offensive sense, there's something missing. And yeah, I look at the jokers that he brings on. We'll get to the substitutions later, but hardly inspires you, does it? Really? Well, this is so depressing, man.
We'll talk about depressing.
Do you remember when we started the season well and I was actually in a good mood? Do you remember? That just seems like an eternity ago now. I'm so doom and gloom, it's uncanny.
That was the first half. Nothing else happened.
Terrible.
Yeah, it was god-awful.
Genuine dross. The only praise that I can give the team is getting themselves back into the game.
Yeah.
Because usually, sides of the past few seasons, we crumble, probably concede a second, we're 2-0 down before we know it. And then it's a case of, I don't know, going out to win the second half or try and make it look less embarrassing. What is it with us in Perth?
Well, I worked it out. So, thinking about it, since that time, so Jeffries, Sergio, then you move to Gary Locke, then Nielsen, then Levine.
John McGlynn before that as well.
Oh yeah, John McGlynn, sorry, aye. Cathro, Levine, McPhee, Stendhal, Nielsen. 10 managers. Well, Nielsen twice. So 9 managers. What must be around, especially with the last couple of years we've had, about 400 players in that time and no wins in the league.
Far off.
Now, I know that for 2 of those years we were out of the league. So, but...
Doesn't excuse it, though. That's still a good 80%.
That's still a decade.
Yeah.
It's still a decade without a league win.
Oh, my God.
What a laugh. Can we just forfeit games at McDermott? Can we just go, nah, fuck this? We'll take a 3-0 loss and make it up somewhere else.
See, this is where, I don't know, my opinions sort of contrast. Because I'd like Dundee to get relegated because I despise Dundee. Yeah, I'd like to see St. Johnstone get relegated so we never have to travel to McDermott Park ever again. I hate that stadium. It's actually my least favourite in the top tier. Amongst a few, it's definitely the worst.
I don't like it because of what we've had to deal with, but I prefer it. I hate Dens. I hate Dens so much.
See, I like Dens as an away day. I just don't like the stand that's on your right.
Yeah, the weird
just the weirdest design ever. But that's
anyway.
Listen,
we need to still speak about this game.
Just get them both away.
Yeah,
and never to speak of them again. Yes. It's getting to the stage now where I'm actually wanting Livingston and Ross County to keep their places in the league. This is what this season has done to me.
What a laugh.
Honestly, this is what this football club has done to me.
I want to raise someone here that people may think this is harsh because of how recent his arrival is and the fact that he scored the only goal.
Oh, go on.
But I have seen nothing from Nathaniel Atkinson that makes me go, yep, you can replace Michael Smith. I thought he was terrible. I thought he was on a bad day with a lot of bad players, he was one of the worst.
Why is that? Do you put him
He
at
couldn't
fault
play
for the first just because Ali Crawford's got so much space to?
Not even, I don't
run
even
into the
mean in
box or
terms
what?
of the goals. I'll be honest, right? I don't even really mean in terms of both goals. He might not be at fault for either. I can't really remember. I actually think they're both on the other side. But I mean, in terms of the game, the whole point in Nathaniel Atkinson that's been brought in is that Michael Smith isn't deemed athletic or attacking enough. However, Michael Smith this season has been roaming into the 10, being a trick or twister and stuff like that, right?
I was going to say he's probably been a better creative influence than most.
Yeah, exactly. But if you go, right, fine, Smith is the more defensive one. So therefore, you bring Atkinson in for the attacking aspect. Almost every attack we had in that game came down Alex Cochrane's side. He didn't do it well, but it still came down that side.
Surely you've got to fault both then.
Absolutely.
But this is the thing with this system, isn't it? Because there's no creative influence in the middle really.
Of the park.
Yeah, it's dependent on the wing backs, like we say. And that's my kind of annoyance. Going back to team selection, I didn't get Benny Beningame being dropped. I know you're not a fan of Benny's recent performances, but I just feel to win it in there,
I would at least brought him on at half time.
Yeah, at McDermott with the conditions and everything, like you've talked about the park there, it's going to be a battle.
Yeah.
And I think Benny he's one of the most combative in there. Mm-hmm. He and Big Pete would have done for me, and maybe even Devlin at kind of the tip of them both to try and give us some.
I would have played a 4-2. I would have played a 4-3-3 with those as a 3.
Yeah, because it needed varying up anyway, and then you've got Ginnelly and Mackay supporting Sims anyway.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But what do we know?
Yeah, and that's what I mean.
Easy saying this now. Had we, ended this McDermott hoodoo, I might have even given Robbie some credit this week.
Yeah,
but
of course.
Alas, we didn't, and so I'm not.
But and some people go, "You're being too harsh on Atkinson," and I get it. Listen, he's got to come from the other side of the world I think what was his off season, and he's got to take time to get up to pace. But I just thought he couldn't even pass at the weekend. Cochrane could at least pass to the midfield inside or back.
Bar the first one that he gave away and then they scored from.
But Cochrane, I was like, all right, okay, he's not doing much, but he's still at least getting the ball. I think every time Atkinson got it, he lost it, whether it was a misplaced pass or he was just tackled. And I don't think he was the worst because I think some of the subs annoyed me more. But from the starting 11, I just noticed Atkinson the most. And people will go, it's because Smith's one of your favourite players and you view him as his replacement. But that wasn't the situation on Saturday because Smith was hurt. It wasn't like Atkinson forced Smith out the team. So I can't go, well, I think Smith should be playing. That wasn't an option.
He's playing there because, sounds harsh, but obviously Mikey Smith's out, so he's the natural replacement. That's just how the squad and football works.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not like a situation where you're going, actually, I think Michael Smith should have played, and it's proven. No, I just mean I worry that our replacement for Michael Smith, even after years of not having one, isn't going to be up to the level of Michael Smith, and that terrifies the shit out of me because he's getting on a bit.
It's going to be a sad, sad day, isn't it?
I'm terrified. However, what was even sadder was the start of the second half, as immediately St Johnstone came out the traps, fit and firing. They looked the more progressive, and 6 minutes into the second half, they got that reward. As I put on Twitter, immediately following it, that it was the worst defended set piece I've seen from us since that set piece under Lavina Ibrox, where everybody just ran forwards.
Oh, God, I was in the home end that day, and that was brutal, having to pretend to celebrate that with my Rangers mate. That's very awful. Like, drinking past us all, honest to God. That was a grim, grim afternoon.
Well, I think the defence of this set piece was as bad as that, because unbelievably, it's a ball put in. We were playing quite a high line in that game. See, a free kick, you can't then just rush forward again. You're a high line, but you need to be aware of where the other players are. So what they choose to do is they all take a step back, playing everybody on side, then run forward and just apparently go, oh, Jamie McCart, nah, we'll completely ignore him. All 10 of us.
One of the 3 St Johnstone lumps that I dubbed, when we beat them at time.
And then, just to add the cherry on top of the cake, Ross Stewart goes, I can't be arsed moving here, lads. I'm just not even going to make a fucking effort to save this.
I'd be the first to stick a knife into Ross Stewart, but I don't think either of the goals are particularly his.
I think he could do more for the second, but I'm not blaming him for the second.
No, because he's expecting
something to happen. Literally, our defence to do anything.
And us to make sufficient contact with the ball.
Yeah.
I can't believe you've brushed over Ellis Sims's 2 misses. The one in the first half from...
I don't even remember them.
I think there's one from a Kingsley corner where he sort of outsprints Liam Gordon after he's let it run through his legs, a great ball from Big Pete, and he's missed an absolute sitter from the corner.
Oh, yeah! Sorry, I do remember that one, yeah.
The second half, I can't remember who plays the ball over to Josh Ginnelly, but he cuts back for the big man.
And he's like a yard, dude. And he puts it over. Yeah, sorry, I did forget about both of them, actually. I think I've blocked them from my mind.
I would have us 2-1 up. So then, of course, because we don't take these 2 decent chances, all it takes is a shocking defensive line and bang. And my goal scorer that I correctly predicted tucks one away. I need to stop chucking out Raj statements. The worst I ever made was Hearts played Livingston under Levine, I think it was, and we drew 1 each at Tynecastle. If my memory serves me, Stephen McLean's late equaliser.
Oh, yeah.
Spared our blushes.
Yeah, I remember that.
After Marvin Bartley, of all people, put Livingston ahead. And I wasn't confident that night.
I was the
watch
top
Bartley
of the
nick the winner. So I've never celebrated a Stephen McLean goal more wildly than that. Let's just say that sad times. That let's just move away from that dark era.
I will say this:
nonsense.
I think everybody at the weekend had a bad game, apart from maybe. Well, no, I was about to say apart from maybe Kingsley, but he's still part of that defence who conceded those 2 goals. But
I won't accept Stephen Kingsley criticism.
But that's what I mean. Kingsley was like, I still don't think he was at major fault for anything. And he looked again like the only person driving forward. The other
He's one of our better creative influences.
Exactly. Yeah.
He plays centre back.
Yeah. However, I will say this. Despite his misses, I thought Sims was not the worst of the bunch because he was the only... I felt most of the time...
He was the only one that our chances fell to.
Yeah, and I felt that he was still doing good hold-up play, but there was just no one to hold it up for. Like, he would hold it up and no one would make runs beyond.
How we haven't addressed the fact that we need a creative midfielder for so long genuinely astounds me.
Yeah.
Who's responsible for that? Surely Robbie's got to identify that he wants one.
Right.
Or is Joe Savage presented him with options? Have they not even discussed this?
Right.
Like, again, it's like... You were touching on something there as well that I was going to pull you up for. Or not, just the fact that, like, a formation change is perhaps necessary. We've not got anybody else, bar Mackay, that will create in this team. So why have we not addressed that? Why have we not changed up the formation when we're on a torrid recent run as of late? Like, a couple games I can understand, but in recent weeks, it's just dross.
I want to raise something that was discussed on Twitter after the game. And
please don't tell me this is a new manager shout.
No, fuck off. No, it's me. I'm fully Team Nielsen.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about like somebody else.
No,
you were just going to address it like here and just go in on them.
No. I saw this discussion between a lot of people. People seem to be on both sides, and it was one of those things where...
Is this the Nielsen Savage debate?
It's the Savage. I want to have the discussion about Savage because I just don't really understand the situation with the fan base in Savage. Like, and this is genuinely from a place of ignorance. This isn't me, like, I have my opinion and stuff like that. I just genuinely don't get it. I don't understand why, when we were flying, doing really well, whenever someone would praise Nielsen, it was met with, yeah, but look at the signings that have been made by Savage. Of course he's doing well. Look at these great players. Then, whenever we've had a dip, whether it be now or at the start of the season when individual players would play badly, it was never, oh, we all need to take responsibility for this. The players need to, Nielsen needs to, Savage needs to, everybody needs to. It was always, no, Savage can't take responsibility for this. It's just Nielsen and the players. I think Joe Savage has been a fantastic addition to this club. It is such a revelation that we have somebody competent at a role that is pivotal. However,
it's amazing that it's not a YouTube scout and that we actually seem as though we're doing our homework when recruiting players.
Yes.
Is in essence what you're trying to say.
However, he's nowhere near a 100% hit rate currently.
Nobody is.
Of course not. But Hearts fans seem to think he is.
No, of course.
I just don't get it. Like I said on Twitter, Savage also needs to take responsibility for players not performing well if he brought them in. Not solely responsible, and shouldn't just be, oh, well, they've been shit. Oh, Savage brought them in, it's his fault. That's ridiculous. But also, you can't just go, oh, well, Savage brought them in. He's been really good. It's solely Nielsen's fault. I just didn't get it. I'm like, where's that come from?
Do you know, I think the thing for me in recent weeks is I look at some games and put it down to individual errors on the park. So that's probably the player's responsibility. I think we as a club, and this is merely me reading between the lines, you can out me for this if you think it's crazy or whatever. I think there's a complacency that's kicked in from Hearts over the past few weeks where, because we've been clear in third for so long, everybody's adamant that that's exactly where we'll finish. And I don't want to have to say that I told you so, but I did sort of issue warnings where, you know, don't count your chickens before they've hatched. It's only February. There's still a heck of a lot of football to be played. We're in a fantastic position. We should be aiming to solidify that, you know, cement third place, cool. But I don't know if this mindset, this sort of, it's not an arrogance, it's merely a complacency where I think we've come up against bottom of the league twice recently and probably expected to just blow them over. And football doesn't work like that. You know, these teams are scrapping for their lives. They're wanting every single point to ensure that they don't go down, that, you know, people that work at the club don't lose their jobs, that they want to remain in the top tier. And yet we just seem like, I don't know if it's an arrogance that we're just going to turn up. Yeah, we're going to walk through this lot, breeze through this lot, another 3 points, third place, here we come, Europe, here we come, happy days. We'll all be playing in the conference, maybe even potentially the Europa if we get a good draw. I don't know. There's still a lot of work to do. And I don't know if that's down to Robbie, if that's down to Savage, if that's down to the players on the park, the coaches behind the scenes. I don't know where to pin the blame, if I'm honest. You know, I'm not a Robbie fan, but I don't feel as though the past few performances are reason to solely target him. If I'm being totally honest, I think a lot of those players need to have a look at themselves and think, you know, am I happy with being a squad player, or do I want to cement a starting place in this team so that when those European fixtures come around, if they come around, I'm involved and not merely watching from the stands like the rest of us.
Yeah, listen, we always say it, but it's a team game, so that has to work both ways. When you're doing well, everybody has to
contribute, McIver.
Yeah, everybody takes responsibility when it's going well, and everybody takes responsibility. That's true. I want to, because listen, nothing else happened in that game apart from there was a goal-mouth scramble at the end where did the ball go over the line?
Somehow we didn't score. We're the only team that doesn't score from that.
Yeah.
And again, like when things are going for you, we tuck that.
Yeah.
But it's not at the minute, so we don't. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's fine margins at the minute. We just need something to get us out of this rut. And I don't know if the weekend's fixture in Paisley, which we'll come to, is the perfect opportunity for that. Because at the minute, or at the time of recording, I should say, they're still without a manager. They might get a bounce off Stephen Robinson by the time the weekend comes around. They might even win at Dens and go up to fourth. And there's a little morale boost in itself to then think, do you know what? We're in fourth. We could beat the side that's currently in third, close that gap ever so slightly. So I don't know, but there is something not quite right at Hearts, and that's a massive concern because it's by no means done yet.
Right, well, that's what I wanted to seek you out as a whole, because the game finishes, and I want to speak about the subs separately as part of this. We all saw the reaction. Everybody listening to this saw the reaction. Anthony Brown today, as we record this, sent out an interesting tweet this morning. What he said was, he was like, I don't have it in front of me, but roughly what he said was, the current squad and management team need to take criticism for the last 7 games. It's been nowhere near good enough. However, the quote I remember is he said, any calls for the manager's head are laughable just now. And I want to know your opinion on the situation at the club, because Robbie after it said, I know you always take more stock about what managers say after games than I do, but I was actually interested in what Robbie said.
Intriguing.
I personally don't think Robbie could have said anything better, because what Nielsen said after that game was, listen, hold our hands up. We've been rubbish recently. The last 2 games especially, not been good enough. To Hearts TV, he was even more blunt, saying that I was completely unhappy with every aspect of today. He was like, even the goal I wasn't happy with because it came from a poor passage of play from us where Stephen Kingsley shouldn't be that high up in the park. And he was very, very, it was probably the most harsh I've ever seen him, which is justifiable after the last 2 fixtures we've had. But what he said was, look at the bigger picture of this season and look at the context of this game. In the context of this game, we were missing our captain, our best player, which is rolled into one, and first choice keeper, all those 3 things are the same player, our top goal scorer, our best defender, and arguably our second or third best defender, which at the very least is the entire spine of the team. And Robbie said, to look at the bigger picture, we're having a very good season and we're going through a dip at the worst possible time. We couldn't be going through a dip at the worst possible time, but every team this season's went through a dip. This is just ours. We believe we can get through it. I want to know what you think, because people saw the headline and people do what they do and don't read the article and just see the headline that the Daily Record like to show and go, Nielsen insists on big picture viewing, and people just read that and go, and don't.
I'm the worst for that for the Sun, because I'll never click on an article from that rag, but I'll share, nonsense.
What do you make of A, what Robbie said after the game, and B, the general reaction? Because let's be honest, there has been calls for him to get sacked. Listen, everybody knows my thoughts on Nielsen. I'm not going to say it again because you'll get sick of hearing it. As someone who is not a Nielsen fan, where do you stand on that right now?
I think he is right in that we need to look at the bigger picture, but my argument's been that the division in itself isn't perhaps as strong as some others would like to suggest. Our rivals for where I believe we should be, and that's occupying European places, are both in transition, most notably across the city and up in Aberdeen.
One of them is still currently occupying a European position, though.
Yeah, true. But again, like I've said before, it's February. Like, nothing's sewn up.
Yeah.
Hibs could dip. They could try and catch us. I don't know. I think I'm more concerned about Aberdeen, to be honest, under Jim Goodwin.
Now that they've got Goodwin, yeah.
But do you know what? In terms of the season as a whole, this is going to sound bizarre and seem like I'm a perfectionist or unrealistic or whatever. There are still matches that I think about and think that we should have taken more points than we have.
I don't think that's being a perfectionist. I think that's just objectively true when you look at some of the games.
But then my frustration comes by thinking, should we be in a better position to wrap up third? Because now I am worried that teams are going to catch us. And I've got to be honest, I wasn't really all that worried. I was never saying, that it's absolutely done, but I didn't see us losing to bottom of the table twice in 2 matches.
Do you not?
So
I don't know how to explain this point.
I really don't know. It's not that I'm Nielsen out or anything like that. Like I'm happy with Robbie at the minute, and I don't think there's better out there for us currently.
That's what I wanted to ask you, because
no,
I've never seen somebody when they've said we need to get Nielsen out. He's taken us as far as we go. Who to suggest?
Yeah, and in fairness, that's not a random punter's job. There'll be folk at Hearts that, or at least I'd hope, would be keeping tabs on gaffers. But I really don't know how I feel, because I feel he deserves this season. If we secure third and it feels like we keep the large core of this playing squad with a couple additions in necessary areas, then I'll let him have that, the start of the season to take us into Europe for, the first time since he left, with a core of players that are fighting for places. There's genuine quality within the squad. If I'm being totally honest, we've both said that we don't believe we're the finished article. So he's doing well in essence with, I don't know, a squad that's 3/4 of the way there.
He did speak about that as well. He said you do have to, obviously, you make adjustments to your goals as the season goes on. When you
of course, expectations change. That's natural.
But he did make the point that it's like, we are still in a transition phase ourselves. We are the newly... Yeah. I know everybody goes like, oh, well, Hibs are in transition, Aberdeen in transition. We're the newly promoted side.
And look, we have experienced some absolute shit times in the past few seasons anyway, most of which have been broadcast on this podcast and numerous others.
Yep.
So, look... In terms of, even if we take it back from the start of the pod, this is the best that Hearts have been in this current predicament. Mm-hmm. And there'll be people that are adamant or believe like me that we could be a little bit further on. But if you'd have said to me, when Levine got sacked, that our transition would be as quick, I wouldn't have believed that. And particularly with some of the season's performances in the Championship, my goodness gracious me. Oh, God.
I don't think there's anything wrong with what you just said there, by the way. I don't think there's anything wrong with going, you're happy with where we are currently, but feel that we should be further ahead, because it's unacceptable.
It's a weird paradox. I feel like this Scottish Premiership season is just a bonkers one anyway.
Yeah, it's very unique in terms of the fact that 4th from 9th is separated by a point or something like that. Like,
it's competitive, but is it a good competitive, or is it a competitive because everybody's poor?
I think it's a championship, like a Scottish Championship competitive, where just a lot of the teams are much of a muchness.
I believe that it was a competitive because the teams are poor, just like it was in the Championship. And look,
I just don't think it's fair.
If it's the same outcome as in the Championship, where Robbie got us up and we won it fairly convincingly, we secure third fairly convincingly, then we've seen we've seen the level that we've elevated to coming into the top tier with. So let's just see if we can replicate that next season if we secure third, and then it's building blocks.
That's the big thing. I think it's slightly unfair when people go, well, we should just be third. It's like, well, in my lifetime, we've finished third 7 times out of a possible 25. We shouldn't be just automatically third.
See, as much as I hate that statistic, I felt as though it was more than that. But then I've got to remember, like, when Rangers fell away, Aberdeen were occupying second, third for a good few years under McInnes. And Scottish football was in a weird stage with 3 of its biggest clubs in the second tier for a season as well. Mm-hmm. So it's not how it's always sort of traditionally is. And if you're looking at the all-time SPL table, Hearts sit third.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So in theory, we should occupy that position more often than not. And that'll be folks' argument. But
in our lifetime, we haven't, though.
And look, exactly, how many years have we been, Robbie was the last man to secure us to third. We've had 2 managers and a relegation since then, albeit in 5-6 years.
We've had 4 managers since then, technically.
Well,
Cathro, Levine, McPhee, Stendhal.
Stendhal as well, sorry. I was thinking Cathro, Stendhal. I was thinking of Cathro and Levine.
Yeah.
I just totally forgot about the Stendhal era. So 3 permanent managers. Look, we're on the road there. We might want the journey to end that little bit sooner than it is, but we're going to get there. Just look, if we blow third, I can't defend him. I'm intrigued to see how we get on in the cup as well, because that's to play for. Mm-hmm. And we've got a decent tie. It's what happens at Hampden should we reach it and beyond that, along with obviously our league position. But
I'm just very interested to see I'm very interested to see what happens when we have everybody fit again. When Gordon's
Put it
back,
this way.
Halkett's back, Boyce is back, Smith is back.
Exactly. A couple first teamers to return. And this time last year, I was going off my rocker at Robbie. So I didn't think that we'd turn it round as quickly as we have. I'm still somewhat frustrated, but I'm certainly not as frustrated as I was. So it's a tricky one, mate. I'm in a real pickle here because I don't know how I feel about Hearts at present. There's a part of me that thinks we might bounce back at the weekend, but then there's a part of me that also believes, like, I don't even know where we're going to score a goal from. You know, on Saturday it was from the most unlikely source of all, Nathaniel Atkinson. Ellis Sims missed a couple sitters. Barry Mackay is yet to score for us. Is that first goal ever going to arrive?
No.
When are the other three jokers on the other flank going to turn up in Ginnelly, Woodburn, Mackay, Stephen?
They were all god-awful.
And when are we going to change shape? Because this clearly doesn't work.
I think we'll change shape.
And that's the frustration with Robbie, I think, that most people have got. Is
stubbornness.
Actually,
no, I don't think we will, because Halkett's apparently back.
His stubbornness and his sort of, it's not an unacceptance, but just the fact that he can't see that we're in a bit of a rut and doesn't want to alter the formation, which to me is bizarre, but...
Well, let's talk about it, because this weekend, and this is going to be probably the only time we get to do this in this podcast history, we're going from Perth to Paisley.
Hey!
Come on! And we're probably going to get beat, but we at least got a good episode title out of it, so it's entirely worth it.
No, it's not. It should be a hatred title. It should be like Perth hate Paisley ? Or something. I don't know.
We're calling this episode, as you will see, the Perth to Paisley podcast, episode 76, from Perth to Paisley. We have to, it's the only time we're ever going to be able to get this, and we have to go for it. Anyway,
okay.
What are you wanting to see? Apart from
Certainly
obviously a win.
Performance.
Yeah, you want a win. But in
goals
terms of
would
the
be
team,
nice.
We know that definitely, according to Robbie, that Gordon, as long as they return negative tests, Gordon and Boyce will be back if they don't have COVID. Smith will not be. But the biggest news is that if he can pass a fitness test, Craig Halkett will be back for this weekend.
Right. Okay. I'd certainly change up the shape.
Even if Halkett's back?
Well, it's dependent on a fitness test. So is he really going to be in the best shape?
I worry that we're pushing them too early because we need him.
I'd be happy to see Halkett on the bench, particularly if I'm opting for a back four.
That's fair.
To be honest. If we can bring him on to, shore things up later on and change to a 3/5 and see it out, I say I want goals. I will take the scrappiest of 1-0s here. Could not care.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see us change shape. Fully fit and everybody back. I'm probably going Gordon in goal, obviously. Smith doesn't look like he's going to make it, so it's going to have to be Atkinson at right back.
Yeah.
Kingsley at left back. Suter and Sibic in the middle of defence. I'm going for Robbie's trusted 4-2-3-1, but again, this has the potential to be the 4-3-3 because I feel like Benny and Big Pete in front of the back four. I'd actually put Devlin as one of the trio supporting my main striker, just because if we're pressing from the front, he is that sole or tip of the midfield, if you like, along with a couple two wingers. If we're pushing on and really pressing, I feel like he'll be the one to kind of, if we're defending from the front, effectively lead that press. Barry Mackay has to play. The other flank, man. Jesus, wet. It really is the toss of a coin.
Yeah.
Do you know, because he scored in the Tynecastle meeting, I'm going to go GMS. I'm going to give him a chance. GMS and Mackay supporting Liam Boyce because of Sims's sitters in Perth. So I'm going Gordon, Kingsley, Suter, Sibic, Atkinson, Beningame, Haring, GMS, Devlin, Mackay, Boyce.
I would make one change to that.
Interesting. In the middle of the park?
Yes. I would play McInnes at the tip.
instead of you're going to say Benny?
I don't know. I think either Benny or Devlin, depending on what you want to do at the start of the game.
Keep Big Pete in there, because I didn't think it was his best performance at McDermott.
Yeah, because he's the best passer in the middle of the park, and we need that. We absolutely need that. And I think if you want that high energy, we hit them for the start, you pair him with Devlin. If you want that complete control of the game, you play Benny. But McAneff in a central position, he needs to...
He needs a chance.
Yeah, he just needs a chance in his natural position.
And he needs to take it, more importantly. It's all right saying that we'll give him an opportunity, but let's be honest, if he's bit part and there's, rumours about him not being happy with how little he's played, he's got to ensure that he takes it. My thing for me is, I've made my feelings clear that I don't believe Nielsen's a big fan of either Haring nor McAneff. I feel as though if he's going to bring McAneff back in, it'll probably be at Haring's expense.
It will be.
And he'll start Biringame and Devlin with McAneff ahead of them. But look, it's all right saying this. I've got this severe fear that he's going to play a 3-4-3, Liam Boyce out position, and Halkett from the start, even if he's not 100%.
I think the team will be...
And then I'll be raging at him.
I think the team will be Gordon in goals, Atkinson and Cochrane, wing backs, Kingsley, Halkett, Suter, Benny and Devlin, Boyce, Sims and Mackay, but Boyce out wide.
Probably.
I'll be really annoyed
if that's as sad as that is to say, that probably is really more accurate. And that'd be harsh. Well, I'm saying it'd be harsh to drop Toby Civic. Would it be?
I think the problem is he's being like Suter. They're being asked to be. One of them has to be a sweeper, and neither of them are. They're both ball playing. They're both better on the far side. I feel like
Civic's a better sweeper, though.
So do I, but I still don't think he is a sweeper. I think Civic's definitely better than Suter, but neither of them are in that role.
Or would he be tempted to put Civic in front of that back 3/4 as one of the two? I don't think he would either, but it's an option.
I don't think it is. I think people say this because he played twice for us there, but in his entire career of 195 matches, he's played this 6 times. So he's not that.
Look, I like him at the back.
So do I.
Because I think he's miles faster than most of our defenders anyway. Yeah. So,
what's your score prediction?
They're on a really good run. I think they're the second most informed team in the country.
Yes,
the Buddies in the top tier, that is obviously.
Their last 6, they've won 4, drawn 2.
Yeah, so that 14 points from a potential 18.
Yeah.
Christ, it would be when facing us, eh? And then Paisley.
We won there last time.
We did, but that Paisley hoodoo's been hanging over us. I want to be positive here. I've got to be positive. Right, you know what? I'm going to throw it out there. I'll probably go a different prediction for who scored and just make it, seem impartial. I'll say we will repeat that scoreline. St Mirren 1, Hearts 2. This has to come to an end at some stage. And if we grab the win heading into that Aberdeen match, I'll be feeling good. If we don't, and then drop points in the Aberdeen match, Jesus.
Who's your goal scorers? Don't say it. Don't say
it. No, I'm not going to say it. I'll say, you know what? I've stuck up for him in this episode. I'll say Stephen Kingsley and Liam Boyce back amongst the goals.
He scored the winner there last time.
Yeah. There you go. I've gone for a repeat scoreline, hopefully the repeat outcome. What are you saying to it?
2-0 St Mirren, Grieve and Charles Dunn for he's got his red card rescinded.
Oh, is he? Oh,
well, they're appealing it, and I don't think it is a red, so he'll probably get it.
But then again, they play midweek, so it doesn't really matter. He will be back for that.
Oh, yeah, he will be back. So,
he will be.
So, Charles Dunn, that New Zealand Grieve boy, whatever his name is, who just seems to be scoring all the time for them. 2-0
loss. Would it be Jordan Jones, a player that I would have loved Hearts to sign after his Philly deal was up, but then Rangers beat us to it?
Well, let's be honest. You all thought that was going to be more angry and more negative. We actually, in that last bit of the discussion, managed to get some big picture thinking and some positive outlooks. I'm very proud of us.
For when Hearts inevitably get beaten Paisley.
Oh yeah, next week it's going to go mental.
The meltdown will be incredible.
And he's hosting, so it'll be some laugh.
Oh, God almighty. Please, Hearts, just grab 3 points. I don't even care how scrappy it is.
Who gives a shit about the performance as long as we win?
Just win.
Yeah.
Please, make it a happy hosting next week.
Well, thank you for listening to this week's episode. We have been Perth to Paisley. You can get us on all the socials at Perth to Paisley. You can also email us perthtopaisley@gmail.com. Please leave us a review on your podcast platform of choice. It massively helps us. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment. We really do appreciate that. Adam, where can they get you on social media?
They can get me on all the socials at Adam T. Kendall and all the other stuff that I've got going on. I feel like I'm the busiest man in the world these days, but what about yourself?
I am at DMcIver22. We'll be back next week for a potential explosive outburst from Adam, but hopefully a calm, lovely discussion about a win and the preview for the upcoming Aberdeen game and anything else that happens in between. But until then, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Keenan Faith, Monergites!